There's a lively debate online about the 50-30-20 budget rule. Some people love it, some people have exposed it and say it's terrible. Well, my wife and I, we've been budgeting for over 8 years now, and we think we're pretty good at it, but we've never even considered this 50-30-20 budget rule before. So we sat down and hashed it out. We decided, is this something that we should try, and have we been budgeting wrong this whole time? Hey everyone, I'm Dan Hinz and welcome to Adulting with Money, where I help couples unite, not fight over their money, whether you're trying to crush debt faster, buy a house sooner, or you just want to get on the same page. And that is what today is about, getting on the same page with your partner. A couple days ago, my wife and I sat down here at the table to talk about the 50-30-20 budget rule, what it is, and how it could help us. But we also did this newlywed game style exercise where we decided, okay, what is it in our budget that we're going to define as needs and wants and goals? And then I ran the numbers to see, well, are we even close? Do we fit this 50-30-20 rule already? If you're not familiar, the 50-30-20 budget rule was introduced by Senator Elizabeth Warren and her daughter in a book that they wrote called All Your Worth. And in it, they talk about how you should take your take-home pay and divide it into 50% needs, 30% wants, and then 20% savings. Now, for this conversation with me and my wife, instead of saying savings, we call them goals, because getting out of debt, saving for an emergency fund, saving for retirement, investing, it's all kind of that extra stuff above and beyond our needs and wants. As we talked, some of the categories we agreed on right away. Okay, here's another easy one, groceries. All right.
I like eating.
Yay. Other categories, not so much. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Have I convinced you it's a need?
Well, I mean, only one sentence right there, so you didn't do a whole lot of convincing, but...
Yeah. In some categories, we both struggled to even make a decision. Okay, ready? 1, 2.
Oops. Nope, I'm not ready. I'm sorry.
I don't want to put it as a need,
I know.
At a couple points, we had some strong opinions. All right, 1, 2, 3. A need? Seriously? Mm-hmm. 1, 2, 3.
Because I really want it.
And at other times, we had a good laugh.
No
You walk in the door with any Target bags you want, and I go, well, that's fun. And I'm going to go back to my video games. Okay. And then, display what you think it is. Now, I'm not going to make you watch the whole discussion, but there were some lessons that we learned that I want to highlight. Lesson number 1 is that the line between a need and a want can be a little bit more fuzzy than you might think. Here is when we talk about repairing our cars.
This one's a little tricky.
Yeah? Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, so you had it as a need. I had it as a want. So why did you have it as a need?
I think at least for me and probably for a lot of people, it's just, car things just happen. I don't know if I necessarily would categorize it as an emergency, but there's kind of a point where you do think about that. That's like, well, I need to be able to get to my job. I need to take my kids to school when they're actually going to school. And if all of a sudden, okay, I need a new alternator, $800 later.
Yeah, and that's a good point, because I put it as a want, and actually I was debating between a want and a goal, because honestly,
I can see that.
Because we use it basically as an extremely specific emergency fund.
Yeah.
And so if you look at it as an emergency fund, that's more of a goal as opposed to we need electricity or we need food.
I agree.
The second lesson is that it can be a little awkward admitting to your partner what you think is a need versus what you think is a want. Ooh, okay, date night. So this is where we set aside money every month to have date nights. This is one of those where I'm not sure if I'm gonna get in trouble with it. All right, ready, 1, 2, 3. I was gonna put it as a want, but I chickened out and put it as a need, so okay, we'll put it as a want. The third lesson is, we already talked about that line between a need and a want, but what about that line between a want and a goal? Where is that and how do you define it? Then the next one is probably going to be pretty easy because I just mentioned it, but paying off the house early. So we have our mortgage, we're paying the minimum, but we also are paying extra as well. Okay, goal. Yeah, so what were you torn between?
Well, I think that, again, you have a required amount that you need to pay for your mortgage every month, so anything above and beyond, I could almost argue as it being a want, just because it's something I want to pay off the mortgage faster, I want to get out of debt faster.
Well, and that's a good point, is to say that technically all goals are wants.
Yeah.
I guess, but they're a special kind of want. Is to
Right.
say, this is especially when it comes to money, if my goal is to get out of debt, obviously you want that. That is one of your goals.
Yeah.
After we split all of our categories into needs and wants and goals, I ran the numbers, and here's our results. Here are the results. So our needs are at 47%. So we are almost...
Okay.
We're almost at 50.
Okay.
We're almost at 50,
Okay.
but it's less than that.
Just barely.
And then basically we flip our wants. Our goals are almost exactly at 30%
Okay.
instead of 20, and then our wants are 23%.
Okay.
And so after that, I asked Allison, is there anything about us handling money that you want to do differently?
No.
Well, that was easy, but right after that, Allison made some really good points.
I think that I'm happy with the budget. And again, I think the 50-30-20 is a guideline, or maybe especially for people who have maybe never budgeted before, or just really looked at where they are actually spending their money. So I feel like for us, this is something that we talk about at least once a month or twice a month, having our budget meetings and trying to, make sure everything is going okay throughout the month for us. So I don't think that I necessarily feel the obligation to fit that rule.
Now for us, this whole process took under an hour. And the reason it took us such a short amount of time is because we already had two habits developed. Is we had an app that tracks all of our spending. And we already had a budget, so the categories were already laid out. So even if you wanted to try the 50-30-20 budget rule, you have to develop those habits. And so the question is, will the 50-30-20 budget rule work for you? Well, my wife had some really good advice for that.
Overall, we're fairly close and it works for us. I think that's great. Again, different families, different lifestyles. Yeah, that might need to be adjusted a little bit, and that's okay.
And yeah, I agree. That's kind of the whole point, is that 50-30-20 is, they're arbitrary numbers. It could be any other combination that you want. Some combination is probably going to work for you. Maybe not those exact numbers, but in the end, in order to even know if you're fitting the 50-30-20, you have to track your spending, you have to have a budget, and as a couple, you have to decide what do you define as a need and what's a want and what's a goal to even put things into that category. That's what I said to my wife, and here was her response. Okay, you could agree or disagree. Geez, just staring at me there.
I thought you were going to say something else.
Oh.
I was listening. I was being a good listener.
I was done.
Okay. Well, no, I do agree.
Yay. If you're looking for an app to track your spending as a couple, check out my review of Mint. Thanks for watching, and remember, consistency beats perfection.